Welcome to this session for the cream course. Let's get into this, hey? This course, like all of my courses, is going to be a lot of channel clearing. We're clearing the channel in which your clarity comes through, we're clearing the channel in which you access your intuition, and we're clearing the channel in which all those brilliant ideas come through that create your abundance, those moves to make, those posts to write, those things to do that create your abundance. So we're going to do a whole lot of channel clearing here. So these prompts and all the things that we're going to do in here is the sort of stuff that you can kind of come back to anytime. It's helpful, you might want to keep the workbooks and worksheets and go, I feel like I need to kind of clear that channel, or I feel like I need to clear this channel, and kind of jump into some of these prompts. I hope that that is something that's going to be helpful for you to do over time, because the work that we're doing here isn't just a one and done kind of a situation. The work that we do in here in any of my containers is often just deconditioning what the world teaches us all day, every day. So it's rarely as simple as just kind of doing a course and then, oh, I'm good to go now. It's usually an intentional decision to be in spaces like this and to be doing work like this to help to kind of cancel out, I suppose, to kind of circumvent, to kind of clear out a lot of the messaging that comes at us and to us all of the time. So we're going to do a whole lot of, people talk about energy clearing around money and things like that. I suppose ultimately that's kind of what we're doing here, but I wanted to give that context of why, because literally our desire, it feels like desire comes through a channel. Like it feels like desire comes into my body. It's like, oh, I want that. It kind of comes into my body. The same as clarity. It's like, oh yeah, I feel that, oh, that idea, yes, that I get that now kind of thing. It feels like it kind of comes into my body. So opening up that channel for those things to come through, abundance feels the same. So one of the things that I feel it's such an honor to help people to do is to know themselves, to like themselves, and to trust themselves, because so much of the world teaches us to do exactly the opposite of that. Is not to know ourselves, but to know facts and information, and not to like ourselves because, here's all the things I'm going to sell you so that you can fix yourself. And certainly not to trust ourselves, but instead to trust authority and instruction and all of those things that come outside of us. So my job will be a job well done if you know yourself more, like yourself more, and trust yourself more after being in any of my containers. So I'm so glad that you are here. Let's do this. So this particular piece, and I want to keep, because there's lots of kind of little pieces here, I do want to keep them relatively punchy, so it feels like this kind of energetic injection, and then some prompts to kind of see, okay, what does that flash out for me? So ideally you do want to kind of absorb this and then also do the prompts, because it will kind of, the idea is that like we absorb and then we flash out and we kind of see what it kind of pushes out and pushes through. So what I want to do here first is talk about creating a really solid foundation of, let's say, belief or knowing or decision. For me, ultimately, a belief just feels like a decision to me. I kind of decide that that's going to be my truth and I'm going to choose that and I'm going to program them in. So for me, that's conditioning. I'm choosing to condition myself. I'm doing my own conditioning work. I'm conditioning these beliefs in and these programming in, because it's just talk about programming. I'm not demonizing programming. Like ultimately our brain is a computer. It needs to be programmed. It needs to have programs into it because the programs then run our life. But when the world is giving us programs from the moment we're born, at some point we kind of realize that and we get to go, oh, okay, I'm going to do some self-conditioning here. I'm going to choose what programs coming in. I'm going to choose what programs get to stay. And to me, that's how we end up creating our life. That's how we end up taking control of our life, but not control as in, oh, I'm controlling it, but being intentional with our lives so we can be creative with our lives. So what we want to do is make a decision here from the very get-go that we get to have the things that we want, and that we get to also be who we are, that we can have the things that we want while being, and in fact because of being, who we really actually are and who we really actually want to be, because desire sends us there, not because programming tells us it's what we should want. Right? It happens everywhere. TV ads, different social media posts, magazines, like it's everywhere. Friends, it's everywhere telling us kind of what we should want. Like why wouldn't you want that? Of course, everyone wants that, and it's kind of this programming, and we get to go, hang on a sec. If I can actually start to know myself and trust myself a little bit more, and trusting yourself often does come with liking yourself, right? If I can trust myself and tune into that more, then I can connect with desire that comes from within rather than just a wanting that comes through programming. programming. This is what you should want. You should want the A plus, and you should want the Employee of the Month award, and you should want the stable income, and you should want the this and that, right? And I've done a whole lot of that in my life. I thought what I wanted was a couple of kids in a good school, and a little 3-bedroom house, and I wanted the husband that I had to love me, and I've ended up with something else completely different from the moment I started to actually just unleash desire and start to operate from desire. So we'll talk about that. But first, I really want to help us to build a solid foundation of belief. So what we want to do is build a solid foundation by making a decision. And if you're in any of my programs, they often do start exactly like this. And we want to create a habit of trusting ourselves to stay on course. And when I say stay on course, I mean staying who we really are. I mean living within our values. I mean staying in integrity, because there's a whole lot of demonizing of wealth that goes on. And it's been a real dance for me to play with the concept of capitalism and of taking advantage of people and manipulative marketing and all of that, and have that sit alongside. But I really do truly have desire to have a life that looks a particular way, and to have a property that looks a particular way, and to have this kind of car, and to have these kind of luxuries in my life. I do actually desire that, and it is coming from my soul. It doesn't feel like it's something I've been programmed to want. So trusting our desire, believing that we get to have that, but believing that we get to have it without hurting anybody, without taking anything from anybody, without manipulating anybody. I think there's a lot of stories that's just business. That's just how it is. It's just how the world is. You can't change it. You've just got to play the game and things like that. And I think it's very easy to lose ourselves in the chase for creating abundance in our lives. And I think that there is a real shift that's happening right now, where a lot of people are coming right back to what actually really matters for me. What do I actually really want? What does abundance actually look like for me? What does your land of plenty look like? What is in your land of plenty? Makes sense? So trusting ourselves to create what we truly desire from soul, but also staying who we really are. I have a very, very solid belief that if you want it, it's what's meant for you. That our desire is divine, that it comes through a channel that is beautiful and pure. I do truly believe that desire, that soul deep desire, and this is the thing, this is the muscle, one of them, that we need to keep practicing, is noticing what is something that I've been conditioned to want, and what is something that I actually truly deeply desire. So continually, and Sparkle Mode is fantastic for this, for those who are familiar with my Soul Modes work. Sparkle Mode is so fantastic for tuning into what actually really matters to me. What do I actually really want? So if you do track your modes, when you are in Sparkle Mode, I would love you to create a practice, even if it's just while you're doing this program, to tuning into when you feel that sparkly energy. And you'll know, because if you've got kids, like, you can't stop staring at their cute faces, or if your partner looks particularly sexy, or if you're just captivated by the sunshine or something like that, right? Like, to me, those are things. Or I'm dancing, there's music on, or I feel like making cocktails. Generally, that is Sparkle Mode for me. It's a beautiful time to be reminded of what do you actually deeply desire, and how would you like it to be. It's a beautiful time. I know for me, Sparkle Mode, there have been times early on where I felt like I just kind of wanted to put my business in the bin and just be with my babies. But when I tuned into the desire I had to help people, not just to make money, but that underneath that in my business, what was my actual work in the world? So here's another piece to journal on in Sparkle Mode, or Wild Mode is very easy to do this as well. But to tune into what is my work in the world, and can I actually have both? We're very connected to abundance in Sparkle Mode. The programming, of course, can get in the way and tell us that we can't have both. You can't have a business and babies, or you can't travel and also build a business, or whatever it is, whatever the story that has been told to you. I know not everyone here has children, obviously, but there's often a story of sacrifice that is fed to us that you cannot have it all. So for me, I have gotten to a point of believing that everything that's in my land of plenty, so when I really picture, when I give up all the rules about sacrifice and all the stories about what you can create and how long things take and how hard you have to work, when I put all of that aside and I step into a land of pure plenty. William Whitecloud is one of my mentors. He has a meditation, which you might be able to access online actually, that takes you to your land of plenty. Basically what it's doing is, like, if you could have anything, what would it be? right? So these are the sorts of questions that we're often programmed out of asking ourselves, because from childhood it was, no, you get what you're given, you get what you get, you don't get upset. What do you want now? You know, I find myself having to really course correct a little bit with my own kids, because with kids it's just like, I want it all. There's no that's enough, right? So if you want it, it's what's meant for you. That is my belief. That is a belief that I have chosen, because it didn't feel good to have a belief that I had to sacrifice this for that. I decided that sacrifice wasn't for me, and that I get to have everything that I can imagine, but not just, billions of dollars, 10 boats, right? Not just all the things I could imagine if I'm just being indulgent, but if I'm indulging my soul, if I am just tuning into, okay, soul, what do you actually want? Do you actually want billions of dollars? Not really. Do you want millions? Yes. Right? Do you want 10 boats? No. Do you want one big boat? Yes. Right? Do you want to have a full-time nanny? No. Do you want a part-time nanny? Yes. So it's like, what in my soul do I actually want? And what kind of abundance do you want is another way of asking that. So what would abundance look like for me? And you might have done this work before, you might not have, but I think it's really beautiful to keep coming back to these kinds of questions, because we grow, we evolve, it changes. And as we get better and better at trusting ourselves and hearing ourselves, it evolves from there as well, because as we see what we've been conditioned to want, we can kind of move that through and go, no, hang on. What do I actually, no, hang on. No, hang on. And we kind of have to keep going, no, hang on, let me come back to me over and over, because every time that we do, it is stepping away from that conditioning that is coming into our field all of the time. So the first question I want to ask you is, what will it look like? What will it look like when you have the abundance your soul is asking you to have? So the first thing I want you to do, sit with a pen and paper and kind of just journal this out. If journaling is new to you, just free write. Just write the question and then just keep going. Don't question it. Don't let your brain answer. And your brain will probably do the first few paragraphs, and then it'll start to get out of the way and you'll start to find some flow. But just really let it come through. I want you to write like a whole page and just keep going. And when you feel like you've run out, just keep going. But what does your soul actually desire? What will that actually look like? And as you do that, notice, what are you afraid will happen if you have it? So if we look at the abundance piece, and this is where we get to talk about money, and a lot of places it's taboo to talk about money. In some places it's all they talk about, but you might notice you have different kind of levels of comfort talking about money. But here, like, let's look at some of these things that you want to have. This kind of life that you want to have, it's going to take financial resources. It's going to take a particular level of income, or it's going to have a particular degree of assets, or it's going to take a particular lifestyle. So let's look at that. What's it going to look like? How much money do you want to be making? What kind of life do you want to be living? And see that and let that come through, and let your soul give that to you. And just notice, what here is my brain saying, well, I should want to have $1 million business, or I should want to be a billionaire, or I should want to have a boat or whatever. Like, do you actually want that? And let that come through, and be brave with it, be bold with it. There's no limits here. This is an imagination exercise, so let that all come through. And as you do, what I want you to ask yourself is, what will it look like? As you do, what will it look like? It's funny, just as I was getting prepared for this session, I went on to check whether the live was working, and then I went out of the live, and there was a post on the screen that was about wealth and says, people don't have a strong intuitive sense of how much bigger 1 billion is than 1 million. 1 million seconds is about 11 days. 1 billion seconds is about 31 years. So there's a huge difference between a millionaire and a billionaire, right? And I think sometimes we kind of throw these words around like it's just the kind of this thing you can't even imagine. This is where we start to imagine it. This is where we start to see it, because anything is possible. Absolutely anything is possible. We live in the day and age of the internet. You can have a post go viral. You can have a bunch of people buy a thing. You could, if you sell courses, you don't have to create the physical thing and send it out for each sale. It just comes in. You don't have to do anything extra. Like, a lot of limits on income have been removed. So really, really important work for us to do is to think limitlessly about income, because limits are constantly being removed from our income creation ability. So this is actually really important work to see it as limitless. And when we do, there are kind of going to be these little pop-ups. I kind of picture it like a game of Guess Who, you know, that game with all the little faces, and you put, you like, does he have glasses? No, okay, pop down all the ones with glasses. It's a bit like that. And sometimes when I kind of choose a belief, I make a decision, I'm like, this is the direction I'm going to go in, I'm choosing this as my truth. And like as I kind of move forward, some of them kind of pop up like a little face, like, hey, yeah, but what about this? I'm like, nope. Hey, yeah, but what about this? Nope. And sometimes it's easy to just go, oh, that's just a belief. That's not mine. Oh, that's programming. Sometimes it's that simple. Sometimes it runs a little bit deeper. Sometimes it's connected to a traumatic event. Sometimes it is just one that just keeps on popping up and you're like, I thought I dealt with that, right? But just to notice as they come up, those kind of buts, those what ifs. So as you're doing this work of what will it look like, just notice what comes up and acknowledge those, right? And one of the questions I love to ask when I'm kind of working on making the decision that I get to call something into my life, the question I love to ask is, what am I afraid will happen if I have it, right? And it's really kind of standard belief work process is to ask a question like that. What am I afraid will happen if I have it? So I think here for a lot of the people coming into this program, so we're going to ask, what are you afraid will happen if you have the money? And I think a lot of, or the money, the abundance, whatever it is that's kind of coming in. And this is work that we get to keep doing over and over and over because our desires evolve and our beliefs evolve and all of that. But I think for a lot of the people that have come into this one, the question is about integrity. The question is, can I still be a good person? Can I do it without hurting anybody? Can I do it without becoming a monster? Can I do it without becoming salesy? Can I do it without becoming manipulative? Right? So some of those little what ifs that come up might be, yeah, but in that picture, when you picture it, when you picture the scene, where you've got the house, you've got the boat, or whatever it is, the life that you're living, what are you afraid is happening in that picture? I mean, I've had the most amazing things come up. I've had many people say, because in that picture I've left my husband because I don't need him anymore to earn money. Like that's come up for some married women who are married to men. And this is some confronting stuff. This is why often we kind of push it down and push it away, because it's like, because I will become something else. I will become someone else. And here, what I hope you do at the end of this program is walk away with a really solid belief and a soul deep decision that you can have the abundance that you desire and do it fully in integrity, and in fact do it actually changing the world, actually being who you are, actually making a really, really positive influence in the world, positive impact. So some of the ones that might come up as you go, when you ask these questions, as you let the vision come to you and you see these kind of little pop-ups, like little guess who faces, like, yeah, but, okay, thank you, yeah, I acknowledge you, yep. I get to create this in integrity, and create a mantra like that if you want to, right? I get to have my impact, my abundance, and my integrity intact. So you might want to create a beautiful little poetic mantra. If you do, please share it with us in the group, about how you get to have your desires and you get to do it as you. You get to create it as who you really are. And being who you really are means being in integrity. It means not putting aside your values, right? So for me, for a long time, I locked up that ragey activist, fired up, wanted to get so mad about racism and oppression and injustice, and that there's poverty in the world and all of these things that I get so fired up about. I kind of parked that for a while, because I sort of thought that was something I got to do once I've made lots of money and I'm rich, then I can kind of deal with those things, right? So I put it aside. And there's all sorts of parts of me that I've locked up in cages and not allowed myself to bring through. This is work I'm still doing. It's work I've done a lot of, and that's why I'm here to share it with you, but it's work that I am still doing. The one that I'm really dancing with at the moment is wasteful. I have noticed that when my income really went up, I started to get kind of wasteful and just less worried about the environment. So what we want to do here, and this is kind of how I've worked through those things, is to ask myself, well, if that's what's happening, then that's obviously what I believe to be what's likely to happen, right? I think it's Brene Brown that says we don't get what we want, we get what we expect, which is why we make these decisions. We decide to expect something in particular. And so I think I kind of associated wealth with destroying the environment. So this is where this beautiful, beautiful question comes in that I love so much. And that is simply, where is the opposite true? So if I notice that one of my little pop-ups that comes up is you make more money, you'll be more wasteful. Ah, okay, interesting. That's a belief. Thank you. Where's that come from? Oh, I don't know. Every TV show, like everywhere, right? That how rich people destroy the environment. Like, and in some cases, there are some rich people who are destroying the environment. But also, where is the opposite true? Where is the opposite true in my life? Where is it? How is it? How could it be that me having the things that I want in my life, me having that abundance that I desire, how would that actually help me to be less wasteful? Does that mean that I can invest in having reusable containers for things instead of throwaway ones? Does that allow me to have a personal home organizer who specializes in sustainability to come out and help me to have the things that I need so I'm not using, cling wrap anymore? Where does it allow me to, I don't know, drive a more sustainable car? Where does it allow me to invest in clothing that lasts longer and is better quality and is more ethically made? So for each one of those pop-ups, we're going to ask this question: where is the opposite true? So for me, one of the ones that came up was, if you have that kind of lifestyle, so if you are flying around business, one of the things I wanted was to fly business class. I don't enjoy flying. I don't really like being on planes. Flying business class makes it more comfortable for me, right? I notice in my body, I feel apologetic about it as I say it, which is interesting. So I noticed that I really wanted to fly business class. So I'm picturing that. I'm going, okay, Carlie, that's in the land of plenty. We get to have that. Okay. So what's popping up to tell me that I can't have that? And also be in integrity and also be who I really am, because who I really am is someone who wants to raise a family of kind humans, people who care, people who are respectful, right? And when I was picturing flying business class all over the world with my family, I was picturing bratty, spoiled kids who look down on the people in economy. And so that was one of my pop-ups. So as I'm picturing that, which is it's not the case yet, I haven't created that yet, but I asked, okay, so where is the opposite true? How could it be that me being at a point where I can afford to fly business class everywhere, how can I actually have that create the opposite of bratty kids? How can I have that create more respectful kids? Well, okay, it could mean that I am taking them places where they get to really learn about how other people live. And also I can have conversations with them about how lucky we are. And that just gets to be something that I'm really aware of, and that I get to make that part of we homeschool firstly is one of the things, right? The abundance that I have allows me to do that. It allows me to have the help that I need and help that I desire to have, and to take them on excursions and take them on trips and take them places, things like that. So when I picture that scenario, I'm like, well, I'm going to be so much more hands-on with them, because in the picture that I had with the bratty kids in business class, the picture I had was I'm not spending any time with them. I'm just dragging them all over the world. They don't actually want to be there. We're not actually connected. Okay. Where is the opposite true? Where is the opposite true that, in fact, me having that abundance, those things, whatever it is that I want, actually allows me to feel more connected with my kids? Does it mean I get to spend more time with them? Does it mean they get to travel with me? Does it mean that I have every morning with them because I hadn't have a nanny in the afternoon? How does it mean all of those things? So this is a really cool exercise to do, to tune into what kind of abundance do you want? What will it look like? As the pop-ups come, what are you afraid will happen if you have money? Are you afraid that you'll turn into an a-hole? That was a big one for me. That I'm going to turn into a spoiled fool who doesn't understand anyone else's life experience. That has actually not been what's happened at all, because I decided that wasn't going to be I decided it wasn't going to be my situation. So continually asking yourself, when those beliefs pop up, where is the opposite true? If you are afraid that creating that level of abundance means you will have to be out of integrity, where is the opposite true? Where can you see in your mind that you being in integrity is actually exactly how you create it? And I can tell you, the more that I come out authentically, the more that I share bravely, the more that I open up parts of myself and let the world see that, the more that my business is thriving, not necessarily financially, right? Like that goes up and down depending on what I'm selling and what payment plans are doing and things like that. But I do feel that it has an effect on how things work, on what I'm building. So for me, one of the things that came up was, what if it all just disappears? What if my business falls over and the whole thing just disappears? What if something happens to me? What if I build this big property and I have this mortgage and whatever, and just something happens? And I'm like, okay, where is opposite true? How can I create in my mind the idea and the belief and the decision that that's not something that's going to be a thing in my reality? So I was like, okay, well, I'm not just kind of building this thing that could potentially just fall over. I'm building something really, like I'm building a really solid foundation here. I'm building a whole bunch of assets with these books and these courses and things like that. Really has value, right? So if you sell t-shirts and you're kind of building this brand, you might be like, well, I don't want to have to do this forever and be printing, whatever. But what if you actually build a business that has enormous value that someone comes and buys off you for $1 million, right? Like anything could happen. So I think in order for us to be in that place of anything can happen, this question of where is the opposite true is so valuable. And this is where we make decisions. This is where we build this solid foundation of belief that you get to have what you want and you get to have it in integrity. You get to be all of who you really are. So for me, it means bringing in the conversations about, injustice. And there are plenty of business coaches that would tell you that that's going to destroy your business, that you can't talk about that. You can't talk about politics. You can't talk about any of this stuff. And I'm over here going, well, I can't cage that part of myself. If I'm going to create wealth, I want to do it as who I really am, and I want to do it as all of who I really am. So let's make that decision. Let's build that foundation. So from there, we get to build from a solid foundation. How are we feeling? Tell me in the comments. Scribbling as you speak. I want to be mortgage free so I don't have to make the choice between taking a job I hate and having unrestricted time with my kids without financial stress. I want to have a business that makes me feel good about helping people from a place of integrity and passion. Beautiful. So I would pull on all of those threads. I would keep going. What does that look like? If you were mortgage free, would you still live in that house? Would you like really go there? See all the detail of it. Bring all the detail to light. What does unrestricted time with the kids look like? Who and how are you in that picture? Are the million and billion 11 days versus 31 years? Yes. So what we want to do is we want to take it out of the ether and bring it into, oh, I see how that could happen. And it doesn't necessarily mean you see how exactly all the steps you're going to create it, but you can imagine yourself in the picture. You can imagine that kind of scene and you're in it, right? Can I climb without climbing over others? Yeah. What if the opposite was true? What if that in your climbing, you bring others with you? Right? Sometimes it's really fun to flip it all the way, not just knock it over, but flip it all the way over to actually the opposite of that. What would the opposite of climbing over people be? It would be bringing people up with you. What if in your climb you bring them all with you? How beautiful. This is such fun kind of space to play in. And this is important work. It feels like indulgent. It feels like, oh, yeah, I'll get to that after my admin is done. It really, truly is important and beautiful work. So I look forward to hearing how you go with this. If you are inside of the Facebook group, please do share and we will dive into the next piece. Okay. Oh gosh, my soul's desires, just some of them. Nature, outdoors, sunshine, clear wall motion, paddleboard, surf, beach, big clean tidy house, open, lots of plants, great conversation, coaching women to change their lives for the better, time connected with my kids. Oh, this is so beautiful. I love all of this. Beautiful clothes to adorn my body. I feel like there's a whole lot of that could and in fact maybe is already happening right now. Like how much of that can you bring in now, Being accepting of how things are right now feels like such a big part of creating what's coming next for me, I remember when we were trying to find the perfect house to move into. We were in our previous house, a little townhouse, and I kept complaining about how small it was and how much I wanted a bigger house. I'd constantly complain about it. And then Paula Ivy came to stay. She stayed in our house for a week at Christmas while we were away, and they'd been traveling in a little camper trailer, in fact. And they came into our house. We weren't there, but they arrived, and she sent me a message going, oh my gosh, this place is so enormous. We don't know what to do with all this space. And it created such a shift in me. I'm like, oh, it's not tiny. I mean, it was small compared to where we are now. But she helped me to see it from a different angle, and I really felt that. I really let that land in my body. We found the perfect house a week later, and now we live in it. So it's so interesting how that beautiful sense of acceptance of where things are and looking for the gratitude and the beauty, which so much of what you're looking for is probably kind of already happening or probably kind of already certainly not that far away. So yes, but swirl with that energy and see it, and then ask yourself, where am I afraid this is going to pull me off course in terms of being who you are, in terms of your self actualization. Love it. Thank you so much for being here with me. I look forward to seeing you in our next session. I'll see you then. Bye, loves.